Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a sledgehammer to a major pillar of pop culture. We're looking at a character that honestly everybody thinks they know.
Oh, absolutely.
You know the drill, right?
Yeah.
You've got the brilliant scientist, the massive anger issues, the green skin, the smashing. It's a story we've all just kind of absorbed through cultural osmosis since we were kids.
Right. The Incredible Hulk.
Exactly. And I think for most of us, the Hulk is just, he's the strong guy.
Yep.
He's the brute force of the Avengers. You point him at the bad thing, he breaks the bad thing, and everybody goes home happy. But we have a stack of sources here today, and I mean a really wild range. We're talking actual medical physics reports from Science World, all the way to some incredibly deep archival analyses from Screen Rant and Comic Book Treasury.
And the picture they paint is, it is infinitely more complicated.
It really is.
It's honestly barely a superhero story when you really get into the weeds of these sources. It's more like a collision between hard biological science and absolute metaphysical horror.
Which is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We are going to peel back those layers. We want to answer the question for you. How does the Hulk actually work? Like, is it biology? Is it physics? Or is it, like you just hinted at, something much, much darker? Because I was reading through the research and I was completely prepared for, gamma rays make your muscles big. I was not prepared for the green door.
The green door. Yeah, that changes everything. It's the exact moment where the genre shifts completely.
Yeah.
But to understand why that shift is so terrifying, you have to understand the science first.
Right.
Because science is the trap. It's the thing that lures you in before the horror actually starts.
Okay, let's walk through this structure then so we know where we're going. We've got three main layers to excavate here. First, the gamma paradox, basically why the real-world science of gamma radiation should have just turned Bruce Banner into a puddle of goo. Second, the biological theories. Like, if we had to make it work, how does a human body theoretically turn green and triple in size? And finally, that deep lore retcon that just throws all the science out the window and replaces it with theology.
Let's start at ground zero, 1962, the original origin story.
Right, it's the height of the Cold War. We have Dr. Bruce Banner. He's out there testing a gamma bomb in the desert. A teenager, Rick Jones, drives onto the test site on a dare. Banner runs out, throws the kid in a trench, and just gets caught right in the blast.
And in the comic book logic, he absorbs the gamma rays, his cells saturate, and he becomes the Hulk. It's your classic atomic age myth.
But we have a report here from Science World that stops us right in our tracks there, because it breaks down what gamma radiation actually is. And, spoiler alert, it is not a magical energy source that gives you an 8-pack.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
Gamma radiation is ionizing electromagnetic radiation.
Right.
If you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, it has the absolute shortest wavelength and the highest energy. It is incredibly potent. And the really operative word there is ionizing.
Ionizing. So break that down for us. What does that actually do to a human cell when it hits it?
Okay, so it transmits so much kinetic energy that it can physically detach electrons from atoms.
Wow.
It isn't just heating you up, it is literally tearing your atomic structure apart. It's like a microscopic shotgun blast to your DNA.
That is a terrifying image.
And it gets worse. The source material uses a specific medical term that I found really arresting. They call it chromothripsis.
I saw that in the notes. It sounds like a supervillain name, to be honest, but it's an actual medical condition.
It is. It literally translates to chromosomal shattering. The analogy the report uses is dropping a glass vase on a concrete floor.
Ouch.
Yeah. The DNA isn't just mutated slightly. It's not like a typo in the genetic code where one thing changes. The code has been cut in hundreds of places simultaneously. It is completely shattered.
So in a real-world scenario, Bruce Banner steps out into that test site. The bomb goes off. He doesn't get huge. He doesn't get green.
No. He gets acute radiation sickness. His skin reddens, his bone marrow is instantly destroyed. The cells lining his gastrointestinal tract just die off. It is a gruesome, painful, and very, very fast death. There is no universe where physics allows you to walk away from that kind of exposure.
Which is a bit of a buzzkill for the Marvel Universe, honestly.
Well, ideally, yes. But here is the nuance that I think makes this really interesting, and it's probably why Science World included this in their report. While a bomb would absolutely kill you, We are actually interacting with gamma radiation all the time in our daily lives.
This part really surprised me. So we're all just a little bit radioactive.
We are bathed in it. It's called natural background radiation.
Yeah.
It comes from the sun, it comes from cosmic rays in deep space, and even from radioactive isotopes buried in the Earth itself.
And the report mentioned geography matters here, which I found fascinating.
It does. Say you live in Vancouver. You're at sea level, so the atmosphere is shielding you from a lot of the cosmic stuff. But if you live in Denver, Colorado,
The Mile High City.
exactly, you are physically closer to the source up there. And the ground in that area is actually rich in uranium and thorium. So people in Denver are absorbing significantly higher doses of gamma radiation than people in Vancouver.
I'm assuming the people of Denver aren't hulking out when they get cut off in traffic, though.
Sadly, no. The experts are very clear on this. You won't turn green, and you certainly won't get super strength. But we do use controlled gamma rays for some really surprising things. Did you catch the note in there about the astronauts?
I did, the space fajitas. I have to be honest, I thought that was a typo in the outline when I first read it.
It's real. NASA uses gamma irradiation to sterilize meat for the International Space Station.
Which sounds completely terrifying. Irradiated beef.
It sounds scary, but it's actually just super efficient. The gamma rays pass right through the packaging and kill all the bacteria, the E. coli, the salmonella, but without actually cooking the meat. So the meat stays raw but entirely sterile, and it's shelf-stable for years.
So to recap, real-world gamma radiation gives us shelf-stable beef fajitas, not the Incredible Hulk.
Precisely. If Bruce Banner was real, he wouldn't be an Avenger. He'd be a very sad statistic, or possibly a very clean steak.
Okay, so we've established that physics says absolutely not. But we're doing a deep dive on a comic book character, so we have to suspend our disbelief a little bit. If we ignore the fact that he should be dead, how do we explain the transformation? Because this is where the biology report, the one labeled Hulk.pdf in our sources, gets really creative.
This is the fun part. Let's assume Banner somehow survives the chromothripsis. The real question is, how does he change back and forth? Because a mutation is usually permanent. If I mutate your DNA to give you a third arm, that arm doesn't just suck back into your body when you calm down.
Right, you're stuck with the arm. So what is the biological mechanism for the reversibility?
The source points to epigenetics.
I hear that term thrown around a lot in health and wellness spaces, usually talking about diet or stress. But how does it apply to turning into a giant monster?
Think of your DNA as the hardware. It's the actual circuit board of your body. Epigenetics is the software. It's the series of chemical switches that tell the genes whether to be turned on or turned off.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
Every single cell in your body has the exact same DNA, right? But a skin cell is completely different from a brain cell. Why? Because the skin switches are flipped on in one and the brain switches are on in the other.
Oh, I see. So the theory is that Bruce Banner basically has a human setting and a Hulk setting.
Exactly. He has this dormant set of genes. Maybe they were created by the bomb, maybe they were latent, but they're switched to off. But when his cortisol levels spike, like when he gets angry or highly stressed, the epigenetic markers flip. The human genes go dormant, and the Hulk genes activate.
That's actually a really elegant explanation. It's like a biological light switch.
It creates a highly plausible pathway for the reversibility. But it still leaves us with the visual problem. Why does he turn green?
Yes, this was my absolute favorite part of the biology section, because I always just assumed radiation equals green. Like in The Simpsons, the plutonium glows bright green. It's just a visual shorthand we've all accepted.
Which is a total myth, by the way. Most radioactive material doesn't glow at all, and if it does, it's usually blue. It's known as Cherenkov radiation.
Really?
Yeah. But the biology source, what they call the biliverdin theory, offers an explanation that is just so much more visceral.
Biliverdin, this is related to bruising, right?
Yes. Think about when you get a really severe injury. A deep, deep bruise. Turns purple, then blue, and then it gets that sickly yellow-green color.
Yeah, the healing color.
That green is a metabolite called biliverdin. It's what happens when your hemoglobin, your red blood cells, are crushed and broken down by the body.
I think I see where this is going, and I really don't like it.
It is straight-up body horror. The transformation from Banner to the Hulk is described as incredibly violent. His bones are rapidly lengthening, his muscles are ripping and expanding. The theory is that this process is so physically traumatic, so metabolically demanding, that it destroys a massive percentage of Banner's red blood cells instantly.
So he's not glowing with atomic energy, he's just bruised.
He is one giant, walking, full-body bruise. His entire system is flooded with biliverdin. The source even compares it to the green-blooded skink.
The lizard.
Right. It's a type of lizard that naturally has super high biliverdin levels, which literally turns its muscles and its blood green.
That completely changes how I picture the character. It's not a superpower at all. It's a symptom of massive internal trauma. Every time he transforms, he is effectively crushing his own circulatory system.
It grounds the monster in real biology. It makes the whole process seem agonizingly painful. But when we talk about the Hulk, there is one thing that even the most creative biologist cannot explain away.
Oh my guess. The mass.
The mass. Conservation of mass is a fundamental law of the universe. You cannot create matter from nothing. Bruce Banner weighs, maybe 150 pounds? The Hulk weighs somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 pounds.
So where does the extra 800 pounds of meat come from?
Exactly. Biology has no answer for that. It can't just appear out of thin air.
And I love that the sources explicitly state that science also cannot explain the pants.
Yes. The Hulk.pdf report is very funny about that. It basically says, look, we can explain the green skin with lizard blood, we can explain the rage transformations with epigenetics, but we absolutely cannot explain how purple denim stretches that far without totally disintegrating.
Some things are just beyond the realm of science.
Indeed they are. But the mass issue, that actually leads us directly into our next section. Because for decades, Marvel writers just completely ignored it. They hand-waved it away with things like, oh, he absorbs ambient mass from the air or whatever. But recently, in the Immortal Hulk run, they finally decided to answer it. And the answer is terrifying.
This is the Screen Rant source we looked at. And this is what we're calling the metaphysical turn.
Right. So we've been treating the Hulk as a sci-fi character this whole time, a tragic lab accident. The Immortal Hulk, which was written by Al Ewing, basically comes along and says, what if all that science was just a cover story?
A cover story for?
Vortheology. The source explains that in the Marvel Universe, gamma radiation isn't just a wavelength of light. It is a conduit. It is this bizarre mixture of science and magic.
A conduit to where exactly?
To the below place.
That seems extremely ominous.
It's basically hell. So Marvel has a supreme creator figure, usually called the one above all. Well, this comic run introduced his dark counterpart, the Shadow. The one below all.
So the one below all is what? Satan? A demon?
It's much worse than a demon. A demon usually has a personality, a specific goal. The source describes the one below all as a mindless, destructive entity of pure hate, a literal god of chaos, and it resides in the absolute deepest layer of reality, locked behind a metaphysical barrier called the Green Door.
The Green Door.
Yes. The working theory now is that when the gamma bomb went off in 1962, it didn't just radiate Bruce Banner. The energy was so intense that it momentarily blew the Green Door right off his hinges.
So Banner didn't just get sick from the radiation. He became an open door.
He became a vessel, an avatar. The Hulk isn't just a biological reaction to anger anymore. He is the one below all, looking through the keyhole into our world. And this, finally, answers the mass question perfectly.
Wait, how so?
Because the extra mass isn't coming from the air. It's coming through the door. When Banner transforms, he is actively drawing ectoplasmic mass from that hell dimension to build the Hulk's physical body.
That is disturbingly logical within the context of the universe. So the Hulk is literally built out of hell matter.
Exactly, and it explains why he's effectively immortal, which ties into the title of the comic, The Immortal Hulk. If you kill Bruce Banner, you shoot him, you burn him, whatever, his soul just goes through the Green Door to the below place. But because the door is permanently open for him, he can just turn around and walk right back out into a new body.
It turns a classic superhero story into a straight-up ghost story.
It really does. The source notes that the Hulk's true purpose, according to the one below all, is to break the world. He wasn't created to be a hero or save people. He was created to end absolutely everything. Banner is just the human cage keeping the end of the world locked up.
It's a complete inversion of what we thought we knew. We used to think the tragedy was that Banner was a good man who was cursed by a random accident. But this lore suggests he was chosen.
Yes.
But why him? Why was Bruce Banner the perfect vessel for this specific cosmic horror?
That brings us to the psychology aspect, and this is the final piece of the puzzle we need to look at. The comic book treasury source dives incredibly deep into Banner's history, and it makes one thing very, very clear. The Hulk didn't start with the bomb.
I read about the real-world inspiration for the character. Jack Kirby, the artist, supposedly saw a mother lift a car off her trapped child. That whole idea of hysterical strength. But the in-universe explanation is so much darker than that.
Much darker. The expert analysis points out that Bruce Banner suffers from dissociative identity disorder, or DID.
Multiple personalities.
Correct. And crucially, he had this disorder long before he ever became a scientist. Bruce was severely abused as a child by his father, Brian Banner. His father was an alcoholic who was fully convinced his own son was a monster.
So the trauma fractured his mind way before the gamma rays ever showed up.
Exactly. He created these alternate personalities to protect himself, to hold all the rage and fear that the child Bruce just couldn't handle. The Hulk was already there, living in the back of his mind.
So when the green door opened,
The One Below All didn't have to build a monster from scratch. It just found the monster that was already waiting in the dark.
wow, it just gave the existing monster a physical body. That's the real tragedy here. The gamma bomb just externalized what Banner had been hiding his entire life.
Right. And this explains perfectly why there are so many different versions of the Hulk in the comics. It's not just one green guy.
Because Banner has a fractured psyche, so different fragments take control of the body at different times.
Exactly.
Walk us through a few of these, because the sources list quite a few. I know about Joe Fixit.
Yeah, the Gray Hulk. He's essentially a Las Vegas enforcer. He's selfish, he drinks, he dates. He represents the rebellious teenager and the tough guy persona that Bruce never allowed himself to be when he was growing up,
Then you have the Professor Hulk, or Doc Green.
which is the psychological attempt to merge Banner's massive intellect with the Hulk's physical power, the idealized perfect self. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Devil Hulk.
Which sounds exactly like a villain, but the source says he's actually protective.
In a very twisted way, yes. The Devil Hulk is the personality that actually loves Bruce the most. He's the strong father figure that Bruce never had. But his way of protecting Bruce is to violently destroy anything that even remotely threatens him. He's the personality that aligns most closely with the One Below All.
It's incredibly complex. It's not just man gets mad. It's a whole internal family system constantly battling for control of a walking nuclear weapon.
It is. But just before we wrap up the psychology section, I have to mention the Gray Hulk origin story from the real world, because I absolutely loved this detail from the comic book treasury. It's a great palate cleanser after talking about all that intense childhood trauma.
You mean the printing error?
Yes. We spent this whole deep dive talking about biliverdin and gamma rays and ectoplasmic mass explaining the green skin. But in the very first issue back in 1962, Stan Lee didn't even want him to be green. He wanted him to be gray.
Why gray specifically?
Because he didn't want to suggest any specific ethnicity or race. He wanted the Hulk to be a complete cipher, just a universal, terrifying gray shadow.
So what happened?
The printer just couldn't handle it. The technology in 1962 was cheap four-color separation. On some pages, the gray looked silver. On others, it looked dark, charcoal. And on some pages, it looked basically green.
So Stan Lee looks at the printed comic and just says, well, this looks terrible.
Essentially, yeah. He realized the printer could handle the color green consistently without messing it up. So for issue number 2, he just shrugged and said, okay, he's green now.
That is fantastic. We have all this incredibly high-level lore, the One Below All, the bruised blood cells, the metaphysics of hell. But ultimately, he's green because a commercial printer in 1962 had bad quality control.
It's the perfect example of how pop culture actually evolves over time. A technical glitch becomes an absolute global icon, and then 50 years later, brilliant writers like Al Ewing have to invent massive theological reasons to explain it within the narrative.
So let's synthesize all of this for you. We started this deep dive thinking about a pretty standard cartoon character.
And we ended up in a completely different, much darker place.
We debunked the origin right away. Real physics says Banner just dies in that trench. We tried to fix it with biology, concluding he's an epigenetic nightmare fueled by millions of crushed blood cells. And then we realized that science was just a mask for a terrifying story about a green door to a hell dimension.
And finally, we realized that the door only opened in the first place because of the deep psychological cracks in one man's abusive childhood.
It's a massive amount for one character to carry. Why does it work? Like, why are we still talking about the Hulk over 60 years later?
I really think it's because he is the collision point of all our biggest fears. Think about it. He represents the fear of the bomb, the terror of the nuclear age. He represents the fear of our own biology betraying us, cancer, mutation, body horror. He represents the fear of the supernatural, the one below all. And most of all, he represents the fear of our own repressed anger.
He's everything we're secretly afraid of, wrapped up in giant purple pants.
Exactly. He's the ultimate cautionary tale that you simply cannot control these massive forces. You can't control radiation, you can't control the devil, and you can't fully control your own trauma. You just have to figure out how to live with it.
That is remarkably deep for a comic book discussion.
Well, that's exactly what we try to do here.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked heavily about how gamma radiation in the Marvel Universe acts as a door to the one below all.
I see exactly where you're going with this.
And we also established earlier, thanks to the science world data, that we are constantly bathed in low-level gamma radiation in the real world. From the sun, from the ground beneath our feet, from deep space.
Right. It is completely inescapable.
If gamma radiation is a door and we are being hit by it every single day of our lives, are we all just keeping that door slightly ajar? Are we just letting a little bit of that chaos into our world constantly?
That is a thought that is genuinely going to keep me awake tonight. Thank you for that.
You are very welcome. And thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. If you want to explore the sources we used today, the science reports, the detailed breakdowns of the Immortal Hulk run, make sure to check the show notes. There is some truly wild stuff in there that we didn't even have time to cover.
It is definitely worth a read.
Until next time, keep looking deeper.